Hello and welcome to the New World Review. I'm Grandline Waifu and today we are looking at Palm. Is that you, honey? Yes. Walk the... Wait, what happens in fashion? What do you walk? The runway. Oh no. Hello and welcome to the New World Review. I'm Grandline Waifu and I'm embarrassed. Let's move into the review now. Episode 124, and today the power of emotions and love save the day and a charged up, crying, broken-hearted teenager. So let's talk about this dress, Palm. Did the bugs teach you fashion? Since when does magical hair shape itself into a balloon gown? And how is that protective underneath the balloon gown? Get balloon pants. Maybe balloon pants next time. What's with the hat? They are not outside. Why does she need to look like a fashionista? Or more specifically, why does she need to look like Killwa's mum in order to deflect attacks? Boing. I don't know what's happening today. Help. I'll come back to the emotion of this episode. I'll come back to the fact that there are huge and far-ranging consequences to the fact that the human experiment failed. Right now, we're talking fashion, and the people want to know who designed your outfit. What we do know now is that all these ant clothes are literally made from their skin or carapace or, I don't know, whatever, like their hair. Ultimately, I'm personally both a fan and not at all a fan of Palm's clothing, largely because I'm not a fan of putting anyone in heels for combat situations. All that aside, Killwa just casually telling Palm where Gon is seems very out of character for him. He knew for a fact that things had changed, and while she might remember him, it was sloppy having him begin to tell her that information. Like, just tell her that information. I understand a lot has happened in the last 20 or so minutes, but I was surprised when he actually said something, even though we went into his mind to pass through the information. To date, Killwa's largely been someone who tends to try to remain safe rather than sorry, and for him to drop that, yes, he's in an emotional state, and yes, there's a lot going on, and yes, it's Palm who Gon seems to have a genuine interest in, but it's still Killwa acting in a very un-Killwa fashion. If only the plug socket he dangerously stuck his fingers in that you should never do had recharged his strategic mind. Killwa has always been one of those characters who is highly strategically minded but then rarely strategically acting, and it's one of the things that I like about him. He knows what he should do. He's great at assessing situations and great at knowing how best to advise people, and he has all this knowledge. But when it comes to application of said knowledge or the manipulation of that knowledge, his conclusions can sometimes be a bit, wonky. This, I find, is one of Togashi's best characters and best ways of showing character because it's so relatable and so very specific. It's a perfect representation of high intelligence, low wisdom, while Gon exhibits high charisma but low intelligence and average wisdom. Sometimes Gon rolls high on wisdom or intelligence, and that can be surprising, but it's fairly rare. Killwa finally breaking was beautiful, and it was just, he deserved the rush of emotions he felt. They were well past due for our little murder boy. That behavior is why we love shows about young people. Young people are socially allowed to have these lapses in judgment and awareness in a way that adults just aren't. It's important, for example, that Leorio is a teenager like the rest, or we'd have some serious questions to ask about his behavior and choices. Palm reads, in the context of this show, as a young adult, which is why some of her behaviors are really problematic, but equally, it means socially we're allowed to fully sexualize her within the context of this show. Not that we should, but that it's socially allowed. We talked about this a little when she and Gon went on a date, but I think it's important here because it brings us to the human experiment Pito did on her. They make it so clear that there are hundreds of people standing outside waiting to be turned into an army, but that those with access to Nen and those with some emotional cognizance or memories will be more powerful fighters. Is it the Nen in this case that helps Palm break out of the mental prison she's in? Or is it the fact that her brain isn't actually fully developed into an adult one? Emotions are such powerful things, and when we're younger, they basically run our lives. Look at Gon in the last episode. Look at Killwa in this one. Look at Meruem's stillness and Palm's fury. Look at the emotions of all these characters, then compare them all to the penguin guy way back when, who we know came from an older adult. Compared to Netero. The flavor of the emotion is different when it's in a younger person. It's more immediate, more powerful, more extreme. That the experiment didn't work isn't because Pito isn't strong enough, I don't think, or that the experiment simply couldn't work. I think it didn't work because emotions run hotter the younger you are. All we've seen for the last few episodes have been hot and cold emotions, especially in our younger characters, be that through their physical behavior or through their use of Nen. Even Ikalgo. I have no idea what his prior life was like, but his emotions strike me as a late teens emotions. Hot and powerful in their fury, but burning out fast. Especially looking at that switch from the feeling of helplessness and weakness to ultimate strength when something he was passionate about was in danger. Impulse. Basically, I'm saying this entire arc is based on teenage behavior through all the main characters, the ants and the humans. The ants, they're all, at the moment, roughly the same age, which is a wonderful development, given we've seen them grow as a civilization almost in real time. Well, for me anyway. It's been weeks and months and months and weeks. Next, we get to see whether the emotions have sped up the fall of humanity or slow it down, because Tinkly Poof saw it all happen. I guess we'll find out how well things go in episode 125. Having had his beliefs validated in the previous episode, Killua knows now that he is the one for Gon. Gon's chosen date told him so. You know, the date who decided to hunt him down and kill him when he told her that he wanted to do the mature thing and not make a commitment to a relationship he wasn't able to keep? Yeah. Her. Meanwhile, Mary's playing games with Netero while Netero plays out his magical girl fantasy go! While it's really impressive that Netero is smacking Meruem around, I find it very telling that all those throwing hands are actually not killing him. I'm not sure Netero's trying to, or maybe he is, but he's failing. Very significantly. He took us through a thought process of why he would wait for people to attack, and it seemed almost due to boredom. In the same way that Meruem practiced strategy on a board, it very much feels as though Netero practiced strategy as an early combatant to see all the possible attacks people could throw at him, or ways they could try to defeat him. At least that would be sound reasoning, and that's the reasoning I'm going with because it makes the most sense. Like, you just let people attack you until they do something different. Like, people are pretty consistent. Once you know their behaviors, I mean, that's the whole point of Meruem's, thing with Komugi, right? Like, you just outlearn them. Anyway, when he stopped allowing them to strike first, the flashback seemed to have another level of boredom to it. One that suggested he wanted to make his way through people who would waste his time and skip to those who would be worth it. But of course, that's to no avail. He's really, really powerful. So he's potentially never been able to use his several-armed spider-jointed golden deity of gratitude. His thankfulness seems throughout the episode to skip from gratitude that he has the skills to gratitude that the someone he gets to use them on might actually be worth the time and energy. The music of the latter part of this episode is bold and brave and operatic, but more than anything, it is adult. Continuing the conversation I had last episode, despite Meruem being the youngest of the ants, baby leftover ant aside, he has so often shown the maturity of an adult that it's hard to characterize him as anything else other than an adult. The stillness of thought and mind of Meruem as he's hurtling through the air at a hand-slap velocity is very composed compared to literally anything to do with Knuckle or Gon. And so the operatic tone to the tomb Netero slaps him into fits beautifully well as both a metaphor and a characterization. Without Komugi around, there's a world weariness to this incredibly young character. And despite just saying the arc is a teen drama, this side to the proceedings is very much the adults talking. In theory, without killing each other. Comparatively, anywhere Poof is, there is a young teen jealousy element involved. Little to no music means that the focus is on words, and by reducing the colours down to just purple with no real tone, we did focus very sharply on those words and on Poof's actions, which is to say that we all know that they all know that there is dissent in the ranks. We now explicitly know that Pito doesn't trust Yuppie or Poof to look after Komugi, which means they're going to be looking for someone else to look after her. Who they'll choose, I'm not sure, but as I've said before, Pito to me is one of the most goal-orientated characters, so I could see them just, choosing Knuckle. And Knuckle would do it because Knuckle's Knuckle. Pito is, as I said, one of the most goal-orientated characters, and that might be because of the narrator helping us to understand them, but that's interesting in itself. The narration of Pito's thoughts and motivations specifically always seem to help convey the story rather than feeling lazy by dropping visual frames. When the narrator is used in this way, I'm always pleased, frankly, and it's fascinating seeing which minds the narrator chooses to go into and why, and what information is divulged when it does. We had so much stillness in the first half of the episode we have yet to be in Gon's mind. Not a new thing, but definitely worth noting because there's also no steam. No steam. None. Whatever's happening in Gon's mind may as well be only what's happening in the room because we don't know how much he knows, just what the others think he knows. It's entirely possible that he already knows by Knuckles' existence that Yuppie is still alive. He knows that Poof is still alive, so that means that there may have been a number of deaths or things going wrong and he has no idea at present where Killua is. Unless he does, and they have like a soul link or something, I don't know. I don't know. Whether he would break or has already broken is sort of the question now, because the steam, the smile, the warm, melty eyes, those were all hallmarks of Gon as a character for the last however many arcs it has been. 3, 4? Those arcs. We haven't seen that in at least 10 episodes or so. Not since he sat down to deal with Pito. What is the mark of a broken character, I guess? Is it when they're beaten into the ground? Is it in their final moments of life? Is it when they're crying on the floor before an enemy potentially kills them? Or is it when they're sat in front of someone they don't even know if they want to fight, but they have so much rage they can't control it anymore? Despite all my misunderstanding and understanding and annoyance of Gon's intelligence being mocked by having steam pour out of him, the fact that there is none here suggests there is instead serious pressure build-up that is going to have to be released at some point. And on that cheery note, that's it from me. If you enjoyed this, whatever this was, click here, here, and here, and here. There's a bell, there's other videos, there's food off camera, screen, microphone. Somewhere over there is food. Have a lovely week, and I'll see you next time.